the lace making came to the Culliville area probably in and around the early 1830s. We know it was brought to the area by Miss Reid, the landlord's sister, the local landlord's sister, John Reid of Rathans. And his estate spanned Monaghan and into part of this part of County Armagh. And there's an anecdotal story that she had been out riding in this area and saw the local women did work in the fields, and she was horrified. And she had learned how to make lace from Mrs. Graham Porter, who came up with the idea in 1821, so about a couple of years earlier than that. And so she set about setting up a school, and the first school she set up was in an outhouse over in Rathans, which is literally about 3 or 4 miles from here. And it was so successful that the venue soon outlived the purpose that she set it up for. So she then, with her own money, built her own school here in Culliville, just literally only about less than a quarter of a mile from here, and that was in the early 1830s. And so she opened it up to the female tenantry, and that's what she's quite a significant contribution to Carrickmacross lace. She doesn't really get much of a recognition for it. But it's her that took it from being a hobby and made it into a sort of commercial enterprise. With the closing of the schools in 1920, around the time of partition, the focus shifted to Carrickmacross. A lot of the women here made lace for the convent at Carrick, and that has continued right up until probably the last 20 years. And so the sort of the lace had died off, or the lace making in this area, as people found more profitable ways of making their money. But we are now, our group is the South Armagh Lace Collective, and our whole focus is on trying to pass on the skills, because we believe this is a very, very rich tradition of ours. It really links us with the women from our families, and it's something that has largely gone unheard of. We kind of would have the belief that very few people would know that we have such a significant lace making tradition in this area. And in actual fact, this would have been known as a centre of excellence for lace making for the best part of over 100 years. And yeah, that would be a largely untold story for this area.
Where I started the lace was from at school, when my mother did it, and then I do help her with pieces, and we'd go to Culliville, that's where I sold in Conningham's. And from that on, then later on, then when my mother died, I did then for the convent Carrickmacross, where we did all the frocks, got the material, thread and all, and dyed it. And the frocks, you'd only get about 6 weeks to make a frock. So it went off, and you had a day in all your different colours. And there was, say, 20 yards to one skirt of a frock was in pink. And then we made about 3 or 4 for the jet planes in Dublin, big squares. From that on, and did the Dublin show, but got the first prize about 4 or 5 times in Dublin, and second, and so forth. And that's the way we carried on. Then I started teaching, so I'm still teaching, and I just love it.
So Martina, this is your grandmother then?
Yeah, this is my granny, Mary Kate McMahon. It's a picture of her, and then I'm behind her and 2 of my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how it done the Carrickmacross lace. 3 of her sisters also done it, so they would have been in our house a lot of the time when we were younger, helping with the lace or delivering the lace to her. Her mother also done the Carrickmacross lace. She was also Mary McMahon from Cappy.
Nice. Just up the road here, Cappy.
Yeah. So it's been in my family for a long. And then for my wedding, I got a local woman, Mary McMahon, to do a veil for me, because I always had an interest in the Carrickmacross lace. And then my 2 daughters, they would veil as well for the Holy Communion.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
I'm hoping it's a piece that'll be a kind of a family heirloom.
Well, it will, because look at this lovely claddagh here. I think that's gorgeous,
And
isn't
the harp
it?
as well. And my wedding cake, I would have had a harp and a claddagh
Did
to
you?
match the veil, yeah.
Wasn't it gorgeous?
You know, because the Celtic design and all, it'd be something I'd really like.
Lovely.
I make a bit of lace, but not a lot. But I sort of, my mummy, Alice Keenan, she actually done the lace as a way of making money years ago. For obviously when we were growing up, there was 3 of us in the family, and it was the only means they had of actually getting any money at all. So I sort of picked it up from her then as the years went on, like when I grew up on that. But I don't really do it much, just sometimes as a pastime. I would do it. But Mommy done it all her life, and then my Aunt Bessie Morgan, she done it as well, Mommy's sister. And then I had a wee sister, she had Down syndrome, girl Eilish, and she actually started to do a wee bit. She would just do maybe just wee small mats, you know, plain mats and that. And I have none of her work with me, but she thought she was brilliant too, and she was really good at it, you know. She really could pick it up.
Wow.
So that was really how it came into our family, you know.
I'm Muriel, and this is my veil that I have to have ready for next Sunday for my granddaughter. And I got into lace about 20 years ago. I met Mary McMahon, and she said, join the lace class and we'll do a bit of lace. And then I did my piece, and she said, do a veil. And I did a veil, and I've been doing it since. And this is Emma.
Yeah, I started lace off when I was really nosy and I was 7 years old. My mom would always go to these classes and I didn't know where she was going, so I always wanted to go with her, and I begged and begged to go with her, and then she finally took me at one stage, and then I went, and it was all about like tea and biscuits, and I was thinking, no, this is great, like. And then Mary said, oh, here, we'll do a wee bit of lace, and then I started doing it, and then this was my first piece, and ever since that I really, really liked it. So, and this is my mum.
Well, I started about 8 years ago to Emma,
Yeah.
And I loved it, of course, as well. And this I made for Emma because Emma loves butterflies. Yeah, I'd say it took me about a year because I was learning the fill and stitches. It was hard, but I'm actually quite proud of it to have finished it. And we have it hanging up in the house, don't we, Emma?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose there's the 3 generations of us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and as we say, the threads that bind us, I suppose it's the family
Yeah.
connection as well, the 3 of us together. So at least it's a hobby that we can do together.
Yeah.
And something that we enjoy. And hopefully you pass it on, Emma, to your kids as well. Yeah.
My grandmother, Mariah Cowan, she was involved with her sisters Alice, Bessie and Annie, and they were all lace makers, and they just lived up the road here in Clonalake.
Yeah.
So they were linked in with Rosie Feeney as well, so they used to send their lace to Rosie and she'd take it to the nuns in Carrickmacross. But that was like 4 of them involved in selling lace to the nuns in Carrickmacross. And I suppose I used to see Granny doing the lace when we'd call out of a Sunday evening, and I didn't take much notice of it, but I just remember she always used to be doing it. And even when she was quite old, late into her 70s, she was still doing the lace.
Muriel, I first became familiar with Carrickmacross lace back in 1957 when I was 6.5 years old and preparing for my first Holy Communion. And this veil here was made for me by a local lady, Molly Trainer, who lived just up the road, and she made the veil. I wore it then 3 years later in 1960 for my confirmation. Then my mother couldn't let my sister wear it because it had gone yellow. So it was just packed away until 37 years later in 1991 when my daughter Catherine came to make First Holy Communion, and she really wanted to wear the veil because she'd seen a photograph of my first Holy Communion. So the veil looks longer here when I was wearing it than here when Catherine wore it, because it was folded differently. But Catherine was delighted to be able to wear that in 1991. Then I moved house 5 times after that, and the veil was duly packed away and kept very safely until we see it here today, still beautiful and fresh and just like new, really.
What age is it?
It's 62 years old. 62 years old now, yes. So, and it's still a very, very precious item in my household here. I don't know who's going to wear it next, but it's ready for anybody who would like to wear it.
My name is Rosie, this is Libby and Mary, and we are 5 generations of lace makers. And Libby is now learning to make lace, as is Mary, and we're keeping on the tradition of going. But we actually have lace makers way back into the 1830s in our family. Our family has lived in the Cullaville area for the best part of 250 years, so we've been there from the beginning of it, and I suppose that's what we are making this film about. We're very passionate about the idea that we have this really rich heritage.
As you said, it links back to how a strong line of very strong women who, because they were so strong, it was amazing to see such a gentle work they did. And you can see here all of these amazing women, you know, like, I think it's just, as I said, what I want to do is, you know, to show recognition for what they did, because they didn't get that recognition, and I don't think that was fair. And, you know, they were so amazing for what they did, and I think you don't realise how far back it goes of what they did, you know, and it just went on and on, and I want to bring it on further, you know. I want to show it to my children, you know. By the time I have children, they'll probably be all, you know, iPads when they're born. So it's, I think, you know, to bring them back to something, I'd say historical, but I think, yeah.
Absolutely.
Very happy to be here because I like to look back and think about all the people who went before, who were doing this.
Yes.
My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, down in a place called Corliss,
And
she
her
lived.
name was?
Her name was Liza Cowan, and she sewed the lacework all the time, herself and her 3 daughters. She had Rosemary, Josephine and Bernadette, and they all made. That would have been about 1850, 1860.
Wow.
Yeah. I still have 2 pieces belonging to them that I suppose were never sold. But Corliss would be about 7 or 8 miles as the crow flies to Carrick, across the fields and across the way they went, and they used to walk there to sell it and walk back. Yeah, I know that, they did that, yeah. And then they used to go to Dublin, to Switzer's, a shop called Switzer's, but they'd get the train at Cullaville and get on the train, and that was easier for them. Do that maybe once every couple of months, yeah, until, I don't know, I think they did that first before they did for Carrick. I think they went to Dublin first, because there was a railway line at Cullaville, and they went there. So.
This is my wedding veil that Mommy got Mary McMahon to make this for me. That is 29 years old there. Oh,
well, 28th of April.
Wow.
And I just wore it just one way, you know, sometimes the fold veils, but this just went right down from here, right down, and it came down just below my hips. It was beautiful.
And who made that?
Mary McMahon.
Mary McMahon.
Yes, the legend.
The legend.
The legend, that is Mary, yeah. That is the lacework lady. And there's so much work to it. I don't know how long it took her to do it. I was asking her how long it took her to do it, but she can't even remember. Weeks and weeks, I would imagine. Yeah, I was so proud of it. Like, and, you know, she even came to my house that morning and, you know, put it on and all, and had to make sure it was sitting properly and that it could be well seen and everything, you know.
And I suppose for Libby finds it very relaxing, and I would agree with that actually, because there's a real meditative quality to making the lace, and there's a rhythm that isn't, I don't find in many activities that I do. And it's a really quiet, sort of absorbing activity. And I suppose if we can all find a bit of that in our lives, then we're all better for it, aren't we?
And it's a link with the past and a hope for the future, really, that it continues on through us continuing to make it.
Yeah. I'd wish that the lace, Carrick Cross lace, would continue, and that there'd be always get a market for it. Because without a market, you can't. Because there's the lace gallery, and you have to get your people to come in to buy it. But it is thriving now.